대학원에서 어떤 공부하고 계시죠?
조금 웃기긴 한데 영문과입니다.
How long have you learned Korean?
I have learned Korean for the past 6-7 years.
What kind of YouTube channel or drama did you watch?
Right now, for example, I just finished Heart Signal.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I met some people who speak very fluent in Korean and I asked them how did you become so fluent in Korean? And also, this video is sponsored by Hilokal. Hilokal is a language exchange application where you can talk to native Koreans in group voice call. And it's for free and you can use it as much as you can. And also, you can get 1 week premium if you download it through the link in the description below. Then let's get into it. Hello,
Hello.
could you introduce yourself in Korean?
노르웨이에서 온 잉리라고 합니다. 그리고 지금 한국에 살고 있고 여기서 대학원 다니고 있습니다.
한국에 사신 지는 얼마나 되셨어요?
저 한 3년 정도 살았습니다.
대학원에서 어떤 공부하고 계시죠?
조금 웃기긴 한데 영문과입니다.
한국에서 영문과를
네.
Okay, so you speak very fluent.
Thank you.
Yeah, so how long have you learned Korean?
It's been on and off. I came to Korea in 2014 and I stayed there 2 years. And then I went back to Norway and I came back last year. Now it's been 1 year. So it's like 2 years and then 1 year.
So it's almost 3 years.
Yes, so 3 years now.
How did you become this fluent? Could you explain, like, how did you study?
First, when I came to Korea the first time, I didn't know any Korean at all. But I had been watching a lot of K-dramas. And I came and I went to language school 4 hours every day. And I originally only planned on doing the first level, but I ended up doing all of the levels. You can do up until level 6. And then there's a 7th level that's like advanced level. So I did all of that until level 7. That was my main studying. But I did have a lot of rules for myself. For example, I refused to use English in any context. Even if I was hanging out with people who knew English, I was like, no, please don't speak English to me, only Korean. I would try my best to only hang out with either Koreans or foreigners who knew Korean. I also tried reading books in Korean. Even if I didn't know the meaning, I would try to read out loud just to practice my reading speed. And I also would listen to Korean radio before I went to bed or just like fall asleep with it, listening to it. And after a certain time, not in the beginning because it was too difficult, but after a couple of months, I tried writing my diary in Korean. And I still do that now. So, yeah.
Even though you went to like language school, I think it's not enough because a lot of people going to school but they're still not that good in Korean, right? So as you said, it's important to do something, put a lot of efforts by yourself, right?
Yeah, I definitely feel like if I hadn't decided at the beginning that I wanted to be very strict with myself, if not, I don't think I would have gotten to the level where I'm at now because I do have a lot of friends that even though they did study Korean, they would just hang out with other foreigners and only speak their native language. It's important to decide that I am only going to use this language. Of course, it was very frustrating in the beginning. I was like, I don't know how to explain this, but I kept going at it. So,
Hello.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi.
한국말로 혹시 자기소개 해주실 수 있나요?
네, 안녕하세요 여러분. 저는 이집트에서 온 네스마라고 합니다. 안녕하세요.
Wow, you're so fluent. How did you study Korean? Like, how did you become this fluent?
Okay, it has been like almost a year since I came to Korea, but I started studying language actually like 4 years ago. I did like self-study and at first like I use, some websites like Talk to Me in Korean. I also use like applications, like online applications to practice the language with native speakers and stuff. So yeah, I did a lot of self-study most of the time.
Did you also study with books, textbook or something?
Yeah, I use like maybe topic books because at the end of the day you have to get the topic certificate to get into Yonsei. I studied like cracking topic writing and hot topic and topic recipe. Yes, yeah, I remember that.
Before you come to Korea, what level your Korean were?
Okay, I can speak some sentences, but when I came here, I tried to practice more and more because of like my department is all conducted in Korean, so I have to study more more advanced, complicated Korean terms. I got better by the time, I guess, when I came here.
When it comes to speaking, it's really important to talking to someone. But if you don't have Korean friends or if you don't have anyone to talk to, it's very hard.
Let me tell you about that because like the time that I actually started seriously, studying the language, language, it was actually in the the middle of the pandemic era. So there weren't so much Korean people coming to Egypt to practice the language with. So yeah, I used a lot of language exchange app, kind of like a room or a club, online club, and just practice the language together. Yeah, that was really helpful as well.
So I want to show you one application. It's called Hilokal.
Yeah, sure.
Here's the application.
Okay.
There's the tables, right? And if you go into the table, now you're in listen only. If you're too shy to speak in front of other people,
I can just listen.
yeah, you can just start from
okay.
listening to the
Okay,
conversation.
okay.
And once you get confident, you can join as a speaker later.
Oh, it's kind of comfortable for all different kinds of personalities. Like people who are kind of shy, are not really confident in speaking yet. They can just listen and then start practicing. Actually, yeah, it's a pretty good app. Yeah.
It's really good, right?
Yeah.
안녕하세요. 혹시 한국어로 자기소개 해주실 수 있나요?
프랑스에서 온 마린입니다. 한국에 온 지 벌써 4년이 됐고 한국 회사에서 일하고 있습니다.
어떤 회사에서 일하고 계세요?
코스메틱 회사인데
네.
저는 거기서 글로벌 디지털 마케팅 담당하고 있어요.
네, 그러면 이제부터는 영어로 진행을 해볼게요. How long have you learned Korean?
I have learned Korean for the past 6-7 years.
You studied by yourself for 3 years in France?
No, it's my bachelor's degree. So I've majored in Korean studies, so civilization as well as language.
I guess even if you're graduated Korean language or Korean culture, it's hard to be fluent in Korean, right? So could you share the method you learned Korean?
So at first when learning Korean, the main problem is vocabulary. Because the grammar is pretty simple, you have to get used to it, so you have to learn a lot of vocabulary first. So what I did was, for the first 1-2 years, I just every day learned at least 5 to 10 words, but every day I would just brush my teeth and learn the vocabulary just afterwards. You can also write an ilki. It helped a lot because at first when you're a beginner, speaking is difficult and it can be burdening, but writing gives you space to get your thoughts right, use new grammatical points, new vocabulary words. Writing every day about your everyday life helps a lot. And I think the main point with studying Korean is being consistent. At least 5 minutes a day makes a big difference. If you're just the weekend 1 or 2 hours, you won't get fast results, I think so.
Then what about speaking? Some people are confident with reading or listening, but they are afraid of speaking Korean. So how did you practice speaking Korean?
I feel like there's 2 types of people, right? There's the people who can really speak and can really listen to you. So when learning new languages, it's faster for them to get accustomed to the country and the people. And there's the other type of people that are very good at reading and writing. So I was the reading and writing part of the people. So I had a hard time coming in Korea because I couldn't speak for the life of me. I couldn't get it out. Especially if you're an introvert like I used to be, it's hard. But if I had an advice to learn how to speak Korean, at first, if you're too shy to speak it in your mirror to yourself, or like watching drama, watching it with Korean subtitles, not English subtitles, and then saying it back. Like when you find a sentence that you feel like you might use later on, you just repeat it afterwards. If you're living in Korea, when you're going to the 편의점 or when you're ordering cafe, you have to use it. If you're not, I think you should find spaces where people speak Korean, cultural exchanges, having new friends, maybe using applications, this kind of stuff also.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
혹시 한국말로 자기소개 부탁드려도 될까요?
네, 해볼게요. 저는 이맨이라고 합니다. 23살이에요. 그래서 네, 프랑스에서 와서요. 스파리 사람입니다.
How long have you learned Korean?
Only 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Korea?
I arrived almost 11 months ago.
I think your Korean is very good considering you studied only 3 months, right?
Yeah.
How did you study Korean? Could you share your method?
So I first looked on YouTube how people did it. And then I found the method worked best for me. I tried to approach it the same way I approached English. And I think being immersed in a language, so listening and writing, practicing speaking is very, very important. Finding friends is difficult while living in Korea. So I just practice at home speaking, imitating people on YouTube, imitating people when I watch K-dramas or Korean variety shows as well.
What kind of YouTube channel or drama did you watch?
Right now, for example, I just finished Heart Signal. The reason why that can be helpful when you learn Korean is that it's not vocabulary that is difficult because it's just normal Korean people dating. So it's always going to be random conversations, and I think that's great practice. And just to also remember how like people my age speak. For the basis, I used How to Study in Korean. So it's a website made by an English native. So it's helpful because you can use how he learned and taught himself because you're also in the same position.
The last question, for those who are trying to learn Korean, what would you say to them? Any advice or tips?
The number one thing that helped me was to hang out with Korean people, and I didn't spend that much time on trying to memorize words or like study by myself. I focused more on trying to be with the people who use the language so I could like surround myself with it. So making Korean friends is the number one way. At least for me, that was the best way to help me get better. Yeah.
You have to study, you know. It's a language learning, so practicing is really good, but you have to get starting with the basics. Like it's just you have to study a lot and memorize words and vocab, grammar rules and stuff, and then actually practice what you study with native speakers. Yeah, that's it.
Just be consistent and do not care about others' opinion. Just be consistent and make mistakes and have fun.
If you don't speak any Asian language or anything that's similar to Korean, be consistent. Like even if it's 10 minutes a day, it's a lot better than just doing 3 hours once a month or like once a week, because then you're gonna work on your memorization skills. You're gonna really practice feeling confident speaking it. If you're learning by yourself, like it can be a little challenging. You're gonna correct your mistakes, whether it's speaking or writing and everything like that. And then with an app like that, I feel like that's easier because then you can just, everybody's on their phone all the time. And then if you don't feel like studying, but you wanna get better at Korean, you just go on the app, stay 10 minutes, listen to people, and that makes a big difference. Even if you don't understand, your brain knows and your brain will remember, and then you can just go back to things that you've heard before and be like, oh, I know what they're saying. So yeah.
Yeah, this is it for today's interview. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jin Street interview. Hi, team.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, you too. Subscribe.